I'm starting with a pound of cooked lobster. I'm cutting it 3/4-inch dice. And while I finish cutting this, I'll show you my foolproof method for cooking lobster. First, put 2 tablespoons of salt in a large stock pot of boiling water and immerse the lobsters. These weigh 2 pounds each and have been killed humanely by the seafood shop. The important thing is to cook them as soon as possible. Then bring the water to a boil, cover the pot, and cook the lobsters for 10 minutes. Next, insert an instant read thermometer in the underside of the tail, and when it registers 140 degrees, the lobsters are cooked. Use tongs to take them out to cool. Then, to get the meat out, run a big chef's knife along the underside of the tail of the lobster. Open it up with your hands and take the meat out. Next, remove the claws. Wrap the claws in a kitchen towel, hit them with a mallet to crack the shell, and take the claw meat out. Cooking lobster really isn't as daunting as it seems, and I find when the fishmonger cooks it, sometimes they overcook it, so I'd rather do it myself, especially when lobster is the main ingredient in the dish. Okay, so that's the lobster. I'm just gonna show you the rolls. So I have hot dog rolls. They're top split, and what I did was I toasted them in butter, but 2 minutes on each side, and they're done. So now I've got a saute pan with 3 tablespoons of melted butter in it. I'm gonna put all the lobster in. Remember, I'm not cooking the lobster, I'm just reheating it. This is gorgeous, perfectly cooked lobster. Half a cup of minced celery. I want it small dice. Salt and pepper. Wait to see how good these are. And just cook it for about 2 minutes, just until it's heated through. Okay, while that heats through, I'm just gonna chop up some dill and parsley. Just a little bit. You don't want to overpower the lobster. So off the heat, I'm just gonna add a little parsley and dill. Okay, and the lemon juice from half a lemon, just to give it a little bright flavor. Okay, I've got the toasted rolls, warm lobster, 6 lobster rolls coming up. I'll put the rolls on a platter, cut side up, then divide the lobster mixture between the 6 of them. Trust me, once you've had a warm lobster roll, you're never going back to the old-fashioned kind. Some fresh herbs, a little squeeze of lemon. And I would say it's lunch somewhere in the world. I'm making fish and lobster cakes, and that actually uses panko in 2 different ways. One is inside the cakes as a binder, and the other one is on the outside, and it makes them really crispy. It's fantastic. Okay, that's 1 cup of panko crumbs, and I've got cooked cod that I'm just gonna flake. This smells so good. Let me tell you how I made it. I sauteed 3/4 cup of diced yellow onion in butter with half a cup of diced celery and half a diced red bell pepper for just 10 minutes. Then I added 10 ounces of skinless cod fillets cut in half, poured in 1/4 cup of heavy cream, sprinkled over half a teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, brought it to a boil, lowered the heat, covered it, and simmered it for 10 minutes. But the time really depends on the thickness of the cod. Then I set it aside to cool for just 10 minutes. Okay, the cod and the cream and the vegetables are all gonna go into the panko. Just get all the sauce. That's what's gonna keep the fish cakes really moist. Okay, now I'm gonna add some other delicious things. First is fresh dill. All I do is just run my knife right down the middle of it and get all the fronds off, and just give it a big rough chop. Fish and dill are a great combination. Okay, about 1½ tablespoons right into the bowl. About 1½ teaspoons of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, and about 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest. Okay, next is an egg, and I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a stir, and this too binds the cakes together. Okay, the next thing is 1/4 pound of lobster meat. This is kind of luxurious, makes it really special. So I've got a cooked lobster tail. Have the seafood shop cook it, it's so much easier. I'm just gonna dice it 1/2-inch dice. About a teaspoon of salt. I wanna make sure these are really well seasoned. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And I'm just gonna mix it with a fork. So I'm gonna take some panko. This is where it comes in, the coating. Just put it on a plate. Add another cup. Just spread it out. And now, here's a pro tip. When I'm making fish cakes, I do it with an ice cream scoop, so they're all the same size. Form it in my hands. This mixture should make about 6 of them. So that's one. I'm just gonna dip it in the panko crumbs, turn it over, and then when I saute, they get golden brown and crisp. All the fish cakes are done, so I'll fry them in a big saute pan in a mixture of olive oil and butter. After 5 minutes, they're ready to flip, and then they'll take 5 more minutes on the other side. To go with the fish and lobster cakes, I made a remoulade sauce, which is a delicious combination of mustard and mayonnaise and French pickles. It's so good with the fish cakes. It's really easy, and happily it's all done in the food processor. First, 1½ cups of good mayonnaise, then 6 tablespoons of minced cornichon, tablespoon of whole grain mustard, 3 tablespoons of champagne vinegar, 1½ teaspoons of salt, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. I pulsed it a few times until the cornichon were finely chopped. Okay, I'm just gonna serve it up. And maybe a little bit of parsley. Let's make lobster BLTs. The thing with lobster BLTs is there's almost no cooking, which makes it really easy. So I've got cooked lobster meat, which I actually have the seafood shop cook for me. I mean, you can cook your own, but that's like a whole big thing with big pots of water. And it's really worth it having them do it. So I'm just gonna cut it up in large pieces, just kind of slice it. You should be able to buy cooked lobster meat pretty much anywhere. Okay, next I'm gonna make the dressing. It's my secret sauce. It's basically Thousand Island dressing. So I've got mayonnaise. And when I was in France, one of my favorite restaurants was called Frenchie's To Go. The owner, Gregory Marchand, made some kind of a sandwich for us. It had the most delicious sauce. And I said to him, Gregory, what is this? And he said, Ina, it's Thousand Island dressing. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just seemed much more fancy when it was in France. So mayonnaise and ketchup and a little bit of relish, salt and pepper. I mean, everybody knows how to make this, right? And you can just find all the ingredients in your pantry and your fridge. But it's just great with lobster. Okay, so that's the sauce. Time to assemble the sandwiches. So I toasted the bread in the oven. Actually, 400 degrees, 10 minutes, so much easier than standing by the toaster and waiting for those things to pop up. And it's nice and crisp, and it's perfect for the sandwich. So just do a little sauce on the bread. If you toast it, the sauce doesn't soak into the bread, so it's better. Leaf of Bib lettuce, just a really tender lettuce. Right on top. Some avocado. What I did was peel these, slice them, and I tossed them in lemon juice to keep them from turning brown. One of the things I love about these sandwiches is I really do love that high-low thing, you know, like truffle mac and cheese or caviar on baked potatoes. I think lobster BLTs is definitely in that category. Some tomato. This is great for a summer lunch. So next is bacon. I actually roasted it in the oven, which is easier to do for a large amount. Then the lobster. This is enough for 4 sandwiches. And then a little more sauce right on top. And that is the lobster BLT. Now I'm gonna go make 3 more. Ta-da! That's 4 lobster BLTs. I'd say that's classic food updated, and I think one of these has my name on it. It is lunchtime sometime, right? That looks so good. First thing I'm gonna do is make a big pot of lobster corn chowder. It's kind of corn chowder with the volume turned up. What I've done is I've gotten 6 cooked lobsters. I mean, they're complicated enough to get the meat out without having to deal with those big pots of steaming water and screaming lobsters. Okay, so that's the meat from 6 lobsters. I'm just gonna put it aside and then put it in after I make the stock. The next thing is the corn. Can't make lobster corn chowder without corn. So I've got 5 ears of corn. This is the 5th. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the kernels right off the cob. And that's pretty easy. And I'm gonna use the shells of the lobsters and the corn husks to make the stock. Okay. And in my big biggest pot you can possibly find. I have 2 cups of onions that I've been sauteing in some butter and olive oil, just beginning to brown. So the first thing is half a cup of cream sherry. Just has that kind of sweetness that lobster and corn have, and it really is sort of classic with lobster soup. So delicious. And I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of paprika, which is basically ground red pepper. It just has wonderful flavor, and it also has great color. That's 1 and 2. And just cook that for about a minute until it all blends together. I love the smell of the onions and sherry. Okay, next, 8 cups of milk and 4 cups of cream. And 2 cups of white wine. Remember, always use a wine that you would drink. You don't want bad wine in your stock. You'll have bad stock. Okay, and then the lobster shells and corn. Just this entire thing's gonna go in, and it's just gonna flavor the stock so beautifully. No spoon. This is why you need a big pot for it. And all the juices from the lobster, everything goes right in. Lid on, 30 minutes, we're gonna have great stock. Okay, so I've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil just heating away in the pan. I'm going to put the bacon in. And what that's going to do is going to render some of the fat out of the bacon and cook it for about 4 to 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to take it all out with a slotted spoon. I'm going to put the bacon back into the soup later after it's cooked. And it'll still be crisp and flavorful. It won't sort of melt into the soup. And then I've got all that wonderful bacon fat that I can cook the vegetables in. How bad can that be? Okay, so I'm going to add all the potatoes, 4 cups of potatoes, lots of potatoes, 3 cups of onions. Now it'll get browned and caramelized flavor, and 4 cups of chopped celery. Okay, and all the corn, add this to what I'm sauteing in the soup. So these are all the vegetables, and then later I'm going to add the stock. Big pot of stock. I'm just going to strain it right here. You just want to make sure you get every bit of the stock. Let it drain for a minute. So what I've done is really get all the flavor I can possibly get out of all the corn and all the lobster. So this stock is going to go right into the soup. It's going to cook for about 15 minutes. This just smells incredible. You can really smell the sherry and lobster, corn, all the vegetables. I'm just going to add a few things to make it really chunky. It's going to be delicious. All the lobster that I had, I cut up in big bite-sized pieces. I just love that it's so chunky. And the bacon that I cooked off in order to start the soup. And just to add the perfect finish, chopped chives. Gives it a little spark. This is my idea of lobster corn chowder. So I'm going to make lobster mac and cheese, and it starts with the sauce. The French call it a roux, which sounds really fancy. It's not. Start with butter, 6 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just going to melt that. And then later I'm going to add some flour for thickener. Okay, the next thing is heating up a quart of milk. And what this does is thicken the sauce. When I add the cheese and the pasta, it gives a nice thick mac and cheese, classic mac and cheese. And then I'm going to mix into the butter half a cup of flour. And the thing about making a roux, or white sauce, is you want the flour to cook for a minute or 2, so it doesn't have that sort of raw flour taste. Okay, milk looks like it's hot, just under simmering. Just going to pour it in. And now I'm going to stir it until it gets nice and thick. So this is white sauce, that's it. It's just thickened milk, and it's going to make fantastic mac and cheese. Okay, I'm going to turn the heat off next to the cheese. That's the good part. So that's about 2 cups of grated cheddar, and I'm going to do 4 cups of grated Gruyere. Just cut it so it fits in the feed tube, just like that. Okay, into the pan with lots of flavorings. I just think it's going to go so well with lobster. That's a lot of cheese. It makes 8 servings. 1 tablespoon of salt. I use kosher salt. 1 teaspoon of pepper. Give it a little heat. And half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Sort of a classic French gratin seasoning. Just brings out the nuttiness of the cheeses. Stir that together. This is gonna be really good mac and cheese. Okay, next I need some pasta. Once it's drained, it goes right back into the sauce and cheese. Yeah, okay. This is delicious. All the pasta and the cheese, and wait till I put lobster in. It's gonna get even better. Okay, I'm gonna cut up 1.5 pounds of lobster. So I'm gonna leave some of the big pieces whole, and then the really big ones I'm gonna chop up. Okay, all this is just gonna go right into the pot. This may be one of my favorite dishes of all time. So good. Big stir. Okay, now I'm gonna get the topping ready. First I need some melted butter. 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And 1.5 cups of breadcrumbs. So these are breadcrumbs, it's really fresh bread that I just ground up in the food processor. And what this is gonna do is when it's in the oven, it's gonna get brown and crusty. So I'm just gonna sprinkle this right on top. Into the oven, 375 degrees for 30 minutes, and they're gonna be bubbly and crusty on the top. It's gonna be so good. Lobster mac and cheese. Now, I don't know anybody that wouldn't want that for dinner. Wow, it smells fantastic.